Hi everybody, welcome to Shedunnit's Crime Writing with Helen Jacey. I'm Helen Jacey and I'd like to say Happy New Year. And today I'm going to celebrate the new beginnings with a character who I think is ahead of his time in 1940s noir. Barney is Elvira Slate's male secretary. But the big theme of today is also thinking about representing gay characters in an era where they were not given any visibility on screen. There were more in books, but I'll come to that in a minute. If anyone was homosexual, if it was a guy character, it was literally alluded to very vaguely. Nothing was blatant because homosexuality being illegal was completely censored. So they wouldn't allow it visibility. They wouldn't allow it presence. So when I'm creating a character like Barney who is gay, I'm thinking, how can I create a gay character who is 40s enough, but I want my characters to be empowered and to be offering the reader positive representation in terms of characters who we can relate to. So I'm always juggling these different aspects of weaving the narrative and thinking, what's plausible enough, but equally, I don't want to censor myself as a writer. Why should I? This is a reinvention of a world, but it's also paying homage to a world that's gone. But it's also, I'm very much asking, how can it be different? Because at the end of the day, we all know that gay people lived and queer people lived in the 1940s. And I am sure many live completely on their terms. I'm sure you're all aware of just how horrendous the treatments were for homosexuality. Gay people were either seen as cursed, perverse, evil, sick, diseased, and there were attempts at curing it, possibly for people who were more privileged. It was a horrible way, a really, really oppressive way of looking at someone's entire sexuality. So I think those sort of repressions, yes, I can't ignore them, but equally, I don't want to create a tragic stereotype either, because obviously for those of you who read a lot of gay fiction, and certainly historic gay fiction, gay people were killed, they were tragic, they had to die. So that's something that I want to avoid as well. So this brings me back to Barney. The second context I want to think about in flipping Barney is what female character would have had a male secretary in the 1940s? So how did Barney and Elvira meet? They met because Elvira's on a case and he's in a dead-end job where he's completely wasted in the very fictional Los Angeles Chronicle, the local newspaper. And he's the admin guy running the classified section. So they have what I call a cute meet in that they instantly connect. They just have a chemistry where they really get on. They feel like, they really are soulmates. They have their souls connect in that they talk to each other like they've always known each other. And I think this sort of surprising rapport just means that there's something it's like a glue between them. They just naturally get on and they can naturally chat very quickly. And I think that's something to do with kind of Barney's non-judgemental personality. But there's something about Elvira that he completely loves. As I've said in previous episodes, we only meet characters through Elvira's point of view, but I have to think about what is going in that character's head when they meet Elvira. He sees something in her that she doesn't, so he's just warm and fun with her, and he's quite intrigued by her. So he, when she offers him a job, he jumps because it's absolutely fantastic. In his past, he was a dancer for shows. He didn't want to be a leading man, but he loves the theatre, he loves musical theatre, he loves Hollywood musicals. Serving in France during World War II, he loses his leg. So he is a wounded veteran. And there will be times in the book series that he may have opportunities to reignite his own love of dancing, but just not by going to the movies and watching cinemas. So I'm very fond of Barney as a kind of warm, compassionate guy who has suffered, who has to stay in the closet to his family, actually. He's not out to his family. But there's aspects of his life that Elvira doesn't know, the kind of gay community that he has, and how he, even though they instinctively trust each other, they do keep professional boundaries up. She hasn't told him that she's a criminal, and he doesn't talk openly about men early. But Barney very much has a loyal group of gay male friends, and he's had some lovers, and he's had heartbreak, and he is looking for Mr. Right, which is very, very difficult in the 1940s, where you have to create your own subcultures to meet people like you. But I love Barney. I want a secretary like Barney. I need Barney, and I think that's why I created Barney. I guess he's inspired by some of my friends who I really have fun with, who, you know, you have that instant rapport. So, you know, I'm very protective of Barney in a way, but also, you know, Barney lives with dignity, and he lives life on his terms as much as he can. So when I think who would Barney be today, well, I think he'd be out, he'd be proud, he'd be married, he'd have kids. I don't know whether he'd be a secretary, but I think he'd certainly be dancing, or a dance instructor, you know, with his disability. He'd be able to do that now. Also interesting about Barney in the 40s is that he, by the time of gay liberation in the 70s, I think he'd have been part of the movement. I don't think he would have wanted to stay closeted. I think he would have really loved gay activism, and he would have, you know, probably moved to San Francisco and been part of the scene. So when you're choosing characters like today, 21st century, who belong to the 40s, it's really fun to think of, well, who would they be then? How would that change them? Because you constantly have to question, are we products of our culture and time? To a certain extent, yes. But is there something about human beings as individuals that some traits just, you know, exist throughout the centuries? There's something about being human and personalities. Is there something about traits that we kind of negotiate our traits with our culture and society? So these are the kind of questions that I think about when I'm recreating the 1940s. But I thought Barney was a great character for us to think about being new, making a difference, and having resolutions to make this year your year.